everybody, and welcome back to the Let's Get Real with Jill video podcast. Thank you so much for joining today. And for those of you who have been here before, as you know, this is not just all about real estate, though today will be. Because actually, Get Real with Jill, it's about community, it's about connection, and it's about shining light on people that actually make a difference in our community and not just in real estate. So whether we're talking about the homes that we live in, the communities, on the Let's Get Real with Jill show, you're going to see a vast majority of different things so that it's a value to you. So today we have a very special guest, Dustin Drone, and he's a returning guest and hopefully a viewer as well.
Yeah.
And last time we had Dustin here, we were actually talking about his podcast, Ex-Men Roundtable. They're at their 80 plus podcast, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And so before we dive in and start talking about his book, so he's a realtor, podcast host, and now an author, I always like to start with a let's get real. Okay, you guys, let's get real. If you are really making a change, really, think about this, because you're like, I want to change, I'm going to do this. The outcome will change. Guess where I got that from? Your last podcast. So let's get real. I mean, seriously, we all talk about let's change. And then it's that spinning hamster wheel. We don't get off of it. But really, if you really are doing the work, I'm not saying it's going to happen in a day.
No.
But if you're doing the work, you will see the outcome will change. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's,
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talk about trajectory a lot in the
Yeah.
podcast. We talk about like the 1% increase that you're trying to just shoot for on a daily basis, and just trying to, compare yourself to who you were yesterday. And, if you can do that on a regular basis, you probably won't notice a change immediately, but over time, you will. You'll see things differently. One of the things that we talked about in our last episode was how do you know if you're growing? It was like episode 88, if you just listen to it.
Okay,
And one of the things I said there is that, how do I know that I've changed is that, you can look at yourself, how you're dealing with like maybe some sort of conflict in your life or some sort of adversity in your life, and compare how you're dealing with that now versus maybe how you dealt with it a year ago. And if it's the same, or if you feel like you've made some progress in it, then you have made some progress. You have changed.
Yeah.
So you do have to recognize that in yourself and give yourself credit for that, because a lot of people don't. They go, "Oh man, I'm still in the same boat." Well, not really.
Right.
Because if there's an awareness there that you didn't have before, that's a sign of growth too.
Right.
So there's all kinds of things there, I think, but yes, I think the main part of what you're saying though is something you have to shine a light on and ask yourself and be honest with yourself. Am I really making progress, or am I kidding myself? Am I being honest with myself about what I want to be and how I want this to show up and how I want this to look long term? And if the answer is, you're not maybe seeing the progress that you hope for, that's just a sign that you're just, you need to maybe
reevaluate or change.
Change.
But you know what I like what you just said too, Dustin, is that you said compare yourself to yesterday, which is so important. Do not compare yourself to others. Right. Compare your own self to yesterday's self.
They say comparison is a thief of joy, so that's the thing that I've heard.
Right? Yeah, totally.
So that's why social media is so dangerous.
Oh my gosh,
You watch about how all these, successful people are doing all these amazing things, or they're going on trips or whatever, and you're like, my life sucks compared to that. And you're like, really though, does it? I mean, you're only just seeing like what they want you to see, and that's what we all do. We all do that.
Right.
We just want to showcase how great we're.
Exactly. Yeah.
When behind the scenes it's a dumpster fire. It's whatever. But reality is, we're all working on ourselves.
Totally.
We're all trying to get better, hopefully.
Because there was the guy, I know we kind of skirted a second, but one of the gentlemen on your podcast who wrote the book, his friend from high school, was like, I don't need to change.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's his journey.
That's cool.
I mean, but there's always growth opportunities.
Totally.
Yeah.
But you just have to, it's something, if you want it, you have the power to do whatever it is that you want to do. And it's not going to be an easy journey. If it was easy, then we'd all be millionaires. Like, I was thinking about this the other day, like, oh, manifestation, like that's a thing that people talk about.
Yeah.
Like, oh, just, and then somebody said like, well, manifestation doesn't work, or we'd all be millionaires, because that's what everybody was like, I'm just going to manifest, a lot of success in my life. Well, it doesn't quite work like that.
No.
You have to you have to put effort behind it. There's
The
a lot
activity.
of
Activity.
There's a lot of intentionality that goes into it.
Right. Which if you're manifesting that, then you're doing the actions toward it. Right.
Totally.
Okay, sorry, because I know we got off a
That's
little
okay.
bit. So anyway, so we're going to switch gears, and we are going to talk about this amazing book which caught my eye. And remember, you guys, stay tuned, because I'm going to tell you how you can get the book at the end, and I'm actually going to be giving away 5 of these books, and there's going to be a hint word in the middle, so that I know you're paying attention to the whole thing. Okay, so the Pocket Realtor. There's a couple things to this. Okay, you guys, the comprehensive guide to buying a house without a real estate agent. Hello, we're realtors. Are you trying to get us out of jobs here? But I think that's very catchy, and there's a couple of reasons why this.
Yeah.
And this book just made me crazy. Like, oh my gosh, we do a lot of stuff. So, we'll dig into this, but I do want to know too, Dustin. Well, first of all, how have you been since you were here a few months ago?
Yeah, it's been an interesting time in real estate.
Yes,
right?
yeah.
Like it always has been. Life is just happening. My daughters, my 2 of my daughters got a year older and had birthdays, and my son I just realized the other day, he's 2 months away from being 21, and just crazy stuff. Growth happens. My hair is I'm doing this, flowy Prince Charming something hair situation.
It looks good though.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm working on it.
Yeah. Looks good.
Thanks. Yeah. So I've been focusing a lot on, the book, just getting out. And it's funny because writing a book is one thing, but like the real work begins when you're like, after you've done it, like, okay, I gotta get this thing, like I gotta tell people about it, otherwise why do I do it?
And it's on Amazon. That's how I got it. But I am shocked because when you were here last, you were talking about it and you were just kind of diving into it, and now we're already here and it's published. And so what made you write this particular book? What's the whole purpose of that?
Well, as I've said it, I made a couple of like Instagram reels and things like that, but in today's real estate, the way that things are right now with like buyer representation agreements, and there's a big emphasis on how we show our value to our potential buyer clients. And so for me, I was like, well, if we only had something that we could like show our clients in these meetings of the things that we do. And it happened that over the summer, I don't know if you know who Dean Graziosi is, Tony Robbins.
Oh, totally.
Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi had this I don't know, they did this program on virtual like thing where their emphasis in that program was create a digital product to serve if you're trying to that's the game changer these days, is having something that you can give out to new clients to build a business and whatever. And in my mind, I'm like, well, what's a challenge right now? What would serve the people that I know and myself also? And so I came up with this book idea. I'm like, well, gosh, we have to have something that we can show a client that represents the things that we do. And it's easy to sit there in front of somebody with a form in your hand and say, these are the things I'll do for you.
Right.
Which is what we have had to do, unless you have this book in front of you with you.
Right.
And try to convince them that you're a valuable person in their life to help them buy the house or to represent them in any kind of real estate transaction. And so when you have this in your hand and you're like, I'm going to represent you to the best of my ability as a realtor with a fiduciary duty to you. These are the things that I'm going to do for you. And so I promise I'll do these things for you. And there's 160 something pages of
what we do.
And it's not fluff. It's all like it's very it's like a manual. It's like A to Z
Right.
From getting started, like from the very beginning to getting pre-approved for a home or for a loan
Yeah.
to closing day. So it's like every step of the way, it's like a timeline.
Yeah, we just don't open up doors.
We don't.
No.
There's so many more pieces to it, right?
And I think that what you're saying here is so every realtor, this is a guide for them on how they can educate their clients, because we are doing those buyer brokers. We're not even supposed to go and show property without a buyer broker.
Right.
So how do you tell a buyer, sign this before I show you this house? Well, this is the education piece, and they'll be like, oh, where do I sign?
Yeah.
And this is not just for agents that are tenured, because this is a whole different world right now. So this is for new agents as well. Like, this should be their real estate Bible.
Totally. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I love that, because that's exactly what I kind of wanted to be, was like, just, this is the manuscript. This is the script for what you do. And what you're saying about tenured, like, whether you as a realtor are tenured or not, your client isn't. Your client doesn't know A from B. They have no idea what they're getting into, and they don't know you from Adam. So all you can do is say, here it is in a physical form of the things that any realtor would do for you. And it's not just like, it's any realtor. Like, this is what we have to do on nationwide. We all have to sign representation agreements with our clients now.
Exactly.
So regardless of what market you're in, regardless, it's a universal thing in this country right now for that. Conversely, so yes, I wrote it for realtors to use as a tool to kind of bolster their confidence. And we'll talk about imposter syndrome in a second. Because I think that's a part of it. That's one of the reasons, one of the things that I wrote the book for as well. But also, like, it's got a clever, catchy title, because I don't know about you, but I've had people tell me, no, I'm just going to do this on my own.
Yes.
I don't want to use an agent. I'm just going to talk to the listing agent and, work with that person. And as a realtor, as a buyer, on the buy side of things, so you're just like, well, good luck, because you don't know what you're getting yourself into, but go for it. So again, this is a book for that person too. It's the same book with the same information. And then if you look at it, there's a couple of things in here that I kind of like poke at them a little bit. In the preface, even the first chapter of the book, I'm like, well, hey, good for you. You want to do this on your own.
Here's what you need to know. Yeah,
and here you go. Here's everything you need. And throughout the book, I pepper in my contact information and say, if this becomes overwhelming for you, just let me know.
Okay, I have to tell you, I noticed that right away.
Yeah.
Because you were really smart, and after every chapter, you have your QR code, how to get in touch with you, because literally by chapter 2, I'd be calling you if I was a buyer. I'd be like, I'm not even going to chapter 3, because already the first 2 chapters, this is what you people do.
Yeah.
I thought you just opened up doors and looked cute. Yeah, no, I guess not. Yeah, you guys have to be pretty smart. So let's go, so I definitely want to come back to that if that's okay, but let's go with, because I think it's so important that agents do pick up this book, and let's talk about that imposter syndrome, and I think it's really prevalent right now because they really do have to show their value with the buyer-broker agreement. So tell me about that.
So, I'm going to get into a little bit of the, we all try to, like, they say that we're most qualified to help the person that we used to be.
Okay.
Isn't it my thing that he says?
Yeah.
So one of the things that I struggled with when I was first starting out was imposter syndrome myself. Like, I don't know my own value. I don't know how to express, my own, like, what I can do. And so my sense of self-value was kind of low. And I felt like that because I didn't feel like I had I had good training and I have really good training, but at the same time,
experience.
How do you get that across in a certain kind of a way where you kind of want to catapult yourself forward? And so for me, I had that imposter syndrome where you're like, that whole thing about fake it till you make it, that whole situation.
Right.
And I'm like, well, that's cool, but I don't want to like lead someone down the wrong path either. I want to really know what I'm talking about. So once you understand and you get past the fear of not knowing things, that imposter syndrome goes away, because then you do become that expert at this. You say that you are because you're just having that more, you're experiencing those things.
Yeah.
So that, having experienced that myself, that own sense of imposter syndrome and being inadequate and not knowing what my own value is, that was one of the things that I leaned into when I was like, who would help? I need to help other people, because if I'm feeling this way, a lot of people are feeling this way. So let me create this tool for anyone to use that will help them build their confidence. Because if you even read this thing, you're going to realize, if you're a new realtor, or even an older, or even an experienced realtor,
or thinking of getting into real estate,
you're going to go, wow, there is more to it. There's a lot to it. And
totally.
when you see it, and these aren't like long chapters, they're a couple pages each.
No, they're fun reading.
Yeah, and it's not. It's in like simple.
Simple language.
I told a couple of people on my team, I'm sorry, there's no pictures in the book. And I should have maybe put some in there, but but I mean, like some flow charts or something. That'd be kind of funny, but
it's easy reading.
Yeah, but it is an easy read, and it's written in language that's really easy to understand and isn't intimidating. The language isn't, but the processes and all the things that we have to do, when you put it all together, it's a process. It's a lot to it.
And I think too, Dustin, that with realtors buying this, new ones, or people who are not really like excelling in their open houses, I think reading this, because they have a script.
Yeah.
When they're at an open house, and then there's another open house down the street, and another open house down the street, if they can show their value at an open house when people walk in, that it's not just showing the home, but they actually have a value which the other two houses may not know. So this is really good to help, I think, with scripts too for open houses.
Totally.
Of what you do.
Absolutely, because it's like one of the things that my team talks about is being an information provider in an open house, and part of that is showing your own confidence in what you do. I just had an idea and I lost it because we were talking about it before about anyway, it'll
imposter syndrome.
No, it'll come back to me, but it's okay.
I'm sorry.
Let's keep going.
Okay.
I'll just.
So open houses, new buyer, new agents, tenured agents. Oh, we were talking about like pictures in the book or graphs. Was it anything?
It was more about
a consultant.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
Okay. All right. So so this is definitely for all agents, period, end of story. I don't care how I've been doing this for 18 years and I read through this, I was like, oh my gosh. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. I mean, so let's do an example. Okay, so then can we go back to people who want to represent themselves? Because now we're seeing that more.
Yeah.
And then as a seller, say it.
Oh, what I was going to say was the example that you're getting with the open houses.
Yeah.
That, we as realtors, our product, yes, we sell houses.
Yeah.
Yes, we do all of this right here, but like the product that we really sell is ourselves. We are our own product.
Totally, yeah.
We are the special sauce in any real estate transaction.
Yeah.
And so when you are able to say, not only am I the special sauce, but I have all the tools I need that you need, and I'm going to use them, all of these things.
Right.
You're the magic that makes that deal happen, right? So that's what I was going to say, is that we are the product.
The product, which is true, And then you want to shine versus that when they're going out to the other open houses, which is why I think this is key.
If you're going to try and make a difference in, be different from somebody else, then be armed with the right information and showing somebody else all the things. Like, if I showed this to a random person in an open house, I'm like, so I'm a buyer, I'm here at this open house and holding this house open, but I represent buyers too. And so we as realtors, this is what we do. This is how we help them buy houses.
Right.
So if you're looking to, if your agent, if you don't already have one, that isn't showing you all of this stuff, then maybe you need to talk to me about that.
Exactly. And a buyer consultation is super important. And when we have people that we come in and have open houses, I think having the right script, this definitely helps. And then you sit down and have a consultation not a sales pitch, a consultation. And this book will help create your consultation for sure.
I specifically mentioned the buyer representation agreement in here too, where I talk about it. And anyone who's listening to this, or watching this, that isn't in real estate and is like, well, what is this that you're talking about? The representation agreement is just a contract between the agent, the realtor, and the buyer or the client that's basically says, it creates agency between those two people. So, and it's not a new tool, but it's just a very highly emphasized thing right now that we're all having to like make sure that we're crossing T's and dotting I's with it. It just shows, it's a disclosure almost of like, I'm going to do all of these things for you if I represent you.
Yeah.
It's I call it a flexible short-term contract in the beginning. You don't have if you don't, like, I know we have to sign these things to see a house, but I always tell people, it's just a short-term contract, just to get you in this house, to show that, and if we work together, we'll talk about having a long-term relationship with us, with me, and me with you, if we fit each other, and you like what I'm talking about, you want me to represent you, then we can talk about it then. But I'm not locking anybody into that. I'm not like trying to like trap you into anything.
Right. It's got to be a two-way relationship.
Right.
It's a relationship for
Exactly.
sure. Yeah.
But being able to even express that to somebody, you have to get good at that. Realtors, you have to get good at that.
Yes.
Like you have to get. This is the
It's
new,
education.
this is the new normal. Is you just, and if you aren't already good at that, I mean, again, we talked about growth before.
Yeah. Yes.
This is a growth opportunity.
Totally.
Right?
I read this and I was amazed. And we don't go into a listing and put it on the market without a listing agreement.
Right.
It's the same type of thing.
Yeah.
And you want to be careful with who you choose to work with. You want the wow clients.
Right.
The wow clients, not the ones that like.
Yeah.
That's another episode we can talk about.
Yes.
Okay, can we get into this last part?
Yes.
Okay. The comprehensive guide to, we already know this is perfect for existing realtors, new realtors, and ones who are thinking about real estate, because they think it's easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, they think it's easy.
Yeah.
Until
All
they
you do
get
is
into
open
it.
a house.
Yeah. Give me the check.
Yeah.
Okay. The comprehensive guide, the Pocket Realtor, the comprehensive guide to buying a house without a real estate agent. So I can imagine if this is in all the airports and all the book stands and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so buying this because I don't want to have to pay fees. I can do this on my own.
Right.
And then they get to it and they're like, oh, this is crazy.
Yeah.
So I think this actually, let people think this, and as soon as they read this book, this doesn't really talk about specific examples that I want to get to also. This is going to talk them out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I do it
In my
kind of a
eyes.
subtle way. I kind of try to do that. Like, there are some pointy parts in it where I'm like, you're about to embark on this journey of doing this on your own, which I give you credit for as the author of the book. Like, good luck. But like I said, I'm here to support you if you need it down the road is where I kind of like leave it. I'm not trying to push my own services, but like I say, if you need support or guidance or something, I'm available.
Right, and I love that because it's at the chapter. The chapter.
But to your point, anyone that does have this kind of hard line in the sand about not using a realtor, you're like, okay, well that's fine, no problem.
Sure.
How are you going to do that? Here's how you're going to do that. And it gets into really some granular things, like things that you wouldn't even think about. Like, how am I going to find the forms that I need to write the contract? How do I contact and communicate with the listing agent? How do I get into a house?
Oh, good point.
You can't even get into a house unless it's an open house.
Right. How do you get your inspectors in?
How do you do all of that stuff? Right.
Okay, so now I just thought of something. Now I forgot.
Exactly.
Okay.
Oh,
So that's a good point. And then, oh my gosh.
No,
Okay. So early onset. That's segment 3. All right. So that's because this is what I was going to say. And with competitive offers, I'm the listing agent, and 2 offers came in, 100% exactly the same. One's represented by a realtor, who has E&O insurance,
Mm-hmm.
knows what the heck's going on, knows the questions to ask. The other one's representing himself.
Who you gonna get?
And my
That's
client's
listening.
gonna go to me, who do I pick? And I'm like, the one with the realtor.
Yeah.
I'm just being honest.
Yeah.
There's no discrimination, but really you're safer in preventing lawsuits with
You're
the
doing your
realtor.
fiduciary duty to
Thank
your
you.
clients when
Thank
you
you.
tell them that.
Yeah, because they want to know.
They
too.
want to know
Yeah.
what's the easiest, fastest, most stress-free way to get through this transaction, and it's definitely going to be with somebody on the other side of the table that knows what the heck they're talking about.
So I want to, okay, so here's the thing. Let's give a couple examples, because if you are buying without a realtor, you don't know what you might be challenged with, and you may even end the transaction and find stuff out later. But let's talk about this, because you as a buyer can put yourself in a bad position. Nothing to do with the seller, and you just committed fraud or because that happens.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's take this. So for those of you who think this is just one of many, many examples. So a seller, you sell to a seller, you buy a home. I'm gonna buy a home on Main Lane. I'm the buyer, I'm representing myself. The seller needs seller in possession. Like, no problem, I'm not in a hurry, I really want your house. And then they want 30 days. I'm like, no problem. You can have 30 days, you can have all the time in the world.
Right.
Well, 29 days is different than 30.
Yeah.
By 24 hours.
Yeah. You become a landlord after.
Exactly.
Because you have to sign a lease agreement with that seller.
Yeah.
And unless you know that,
You wouldn't.
you wouldn't know that
Yeah.
if you're just going to do it without an agent. So, and that's a whole other form to fill out.
And you don't fill it out.
Right.
And the seller, because if you were 29 days, that's a whole different legal ballgame. In 30 days, you have to sign a lease because it's tenant landlord.
Yep.
So let's say you're the seller. I'm the buyer, and I'm like, oh my gosh, Dustin, of course you can stay 30 days.
Yeah.
And then day 30 comes, and you're like, you know what? No, I'm not moving.
Right.
Now,
What do you
the
do
law
now?
protects you
Yeah.
because it's landlord-tenant. Yeah, so now I'm not getting eviction.
Yeah. So, but to your point, these are nuances that unless you've been through it and understand all the little things that are pieces of this, that even the smaller pieces that don't look like pieces that may or may not show up, you got to be able to know how to deal with it when they do, because it's a good shot that it could actually happen.
Yeah.
And there are things that even seasoned real estate agents and realtors don't see on a daily basis, and so they even have to dust off their book of all right, how do we deal with this? What do they have to consult with other agents and find out? Well, what's the best way to get through this?
Oh, how often do we do?
Right?
We
Totally
do.
do.
Yeah, because not every transaction is the same.
No transactions the same.
Yes,
Yeah.
and we come up with different things, and we do. We get advice,
Yeah.
or look at how many times we have to call our broker
Yeah.
or the legal team to
Right.
get advice,
Right.
to stay out of trouble, to
Yeah.
stay out of court, to
Yeah.
protect our clients.
Yeah, there's
So-
there's a whole chapter about liability in the book.
Yeah.
A whole chapter about liability.
And people think that because they're buying that they won't have these issues, it'd be more on the seller. No, because this is a perfect example. Or even if when they go to get a loan and they tell the lender, yes, I'm gonna do an owner occupied,
Right.
and they do the, because owner occupied is a less interest rate,
Different.
they buy it,
Yep.
and it's owner occupied is on the purchase agreement, but they really never move in. Okay, we call that lender fraud. Where they may think, oh, it's okay, nobody would know.
Right.
We would be advising our buyer, no, you're not doing that.
Right.
Yeah. So just a couple of scenarios. Get the book.
Yeah. So if you're a buyer who's thinking about not using an agent, I mean, these are scenarios that can come up, and unless you know what you're doing, you can get yourself into deep trouble.
Right.
So,
And even a buyer would not know an agent visual inspection disclosure. No. So I could be selling this house and not do, or I could hide something because I know that the guy next door, he's been in jail for not good things.
yeah.
I have to disclose that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And if I don't, then there's a whole lawsuit.
Yeah.
Well, the buyer may not know that I have. So the buyer could buy it and find out from the neighbor, oh, that neighbor is a bad guy.
Right.
But not know that I had to disclose it. We would know as realtors that realtor had to disclose it.
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Right. Okay.
We're kind of getting really into the details of it,
Right,
but I think illustrates the point.
Yes.
You know, from both sides of things, as realtors who have had some experience with certain things, and if you're thinking about buying this book and you don't as an agent or whatever, and you're like, oh man, it would be good to be able to have these conversations with my potential client and say, these are the kind of things that could come up. This is how I know that, this is how you know that I know how to deal with it, right? And if you're a realtor, if you're thinking about, like, I think what we just accomplished was scaring the bejesus out of a buyer who doesn't want to use an agent, okay, like, honestly, like, somebody else said to me, I think there was someone in the office who said, if you're going, would you represent yourself in a legal in law? No. Would you do your own surgery?
No.
No, you wouldn't. You'd hire a professional.
Right.
That's what you're doing when you use a realtor.
And interview a couple.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need a second opinion or whatever. Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how the real estate world has evolved into people thinking that they can do this on their own. But I think this is great for us realtors. This is great for new realtors. And this is great for people that are buying that really don't understand the process. Because I actually think it's a good education to ask questions of their realtor too. I think this brings up good questions.
Well, and I would also tell you, if you're going to buy the book and you want to give it to your clients, as a thing and say, hold me to this. Hold me to the things that are in this book.
Yeah.
If you have questions, and as we're going through the transaction, you're going to see the things that are showing up in our transaction in the book. You can ask me about them. You'll have a better understanding of what's going on. You'll also be able to anticipate what comes next, because that's a big fear factor for a lot of buyers out there. They're like, well, what do I do now? I heard
it's true. Yes.
I heard a commercial. I think it was for Rocket Mortgage or something like that. And they're like, and the lady says, I really want someone that will hold my hand through the transaction. Well, that's what this kind of helps you do, and that's what we as realtors are there for too, is to calm you and keep you move out. Yeah, exactly. I just had a client this week who I had to literally you're gonna be okay. It's gonna be all right.
You're gonna be okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
It all works out, right? And
so,
and I'm not gonna leave you alone.
Right.
I'm not gonna let you do this by yourself. You're not by yourself. Just things like that, where you feel like you have support and emotional, mental support through the biggest transaction that you'll make in your life.
Totally, yeah.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
And Mike, we always try to answer questions before they're even asked. That's one of our goals too. And it is that hand-holding process. What's next? What's next? What's next?
Yeah.
So when a client says to me, what's next? I'm like,
yeah.
I should have already answered that for them. But I think this book will totally help with what the process is.
Yeah.
Okay, before, so you guys stay tuned, because Dustin is going to tell you how to get the book. And the magic word, I'm going to be giving away 5 free books, is imposter. So if you comment or text me at 916-765-5488, the word imposter, I am going to go ahead and send you one of these books. So in the meantime, before we wrap up, is there any last words you'd like to say to everybody?
Gosh. In regards to the book or
anything, the book, whatever.
Just keep trying. Just keep moving forward. We're all living in kind of challenging times right now.
Yeah.
Not just in real estate, not just in in life. We all have stuff that we're dealing with.
Yeah.
So just keep moving. I think you're doing better than you think you might be thinking that you're doing. If that makes sense.
Yeah. And compare yourself to yesterday.
Compare yourself to you and be proud. Feel proud that you're still, making it work. You're doing your best, Yeah.
And so watch X-Men Roundtable as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so Dustin, how can viewers get the book after I give 5 free away?
Super easy. You just have to go to Amazon.com and just do a search in the window, The Pocket Realtor, and it'll show up. I think I have them at $12.99. I think it's a great.
That's a great. What?
It's a great price. Yeah.
Oh. Okay, I'm gonna get 6. I'll get 6. We're throwing in one more.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, and if you want to reach out to me specifically, I can probably get you a cheaper deal on those. So.
Are you gonna sign mine?
I'll sign yours. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So before we wrap up, thank you so much for returning. And you are. I mean, you were here not that long ago. I love the X-Men podcast, the Ex-Men Roundtable podcast, and then now you just wrote this book. So thank you for taking your precious time to be here with me today, Dustin.
It's my pleasure.
And I'm so glad that we've met.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of like symmetry there.
Yeah. Like you're so easy to chit chat with, and I like hanging out with you at pool parties.
Yeah.
All right, so you guys, thank you so much. Thank you, Dustin. And before we wrap up, thank you for tuning in for another Get Real with Jill episode. And I want to thank our sponsor. We actually have a sponsor. And I want to thank our sponsor, Speedo Steve Pool Services. If you're looking to keep your pool sparkling clean, just like mine, look no further. Speedo Steve and his team are dedicated to providing top-notch service, which is super important to me, ensuring your pool is clean and safe for you and your family and friends for those pool parties. Whether it's regular maintenance or really emergency repairs, they've got you covered. So dive into and check out Speedo Steve's Pool Service to make your pool the place to be. You can even call Speedo Steve directly at 916-906-4097. Thank you all for joining us today. And remember, please subscribe to Spotify Video Podcast. I would so appreciate it. You can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify. I am everywhere. We have to be, right?
We do.
Okay, thank you so much, Dustin. I so appreciate you. I will see you guys next time on Get Real with Jill.